Howdy champs, my name is Mohit and guys, today I'm going to show you a button controlled picture gallery which has two buttons that will take you to the next or the previous picture, but the buttons are kind of magical out here. Let me show you what exactly I'm saying when I say magical, or a little tricky. In fact, they're very helpful as well. So let's see what I mean when I say helpful. Okay guys, have a look out here. I just press Ctrl Enter on the keyboard and the first picture actually pops up, but there's no sign of a button on the stage. There's absolutely just the first picture that shows up and there are no buttons that show up. But the moment I hover over, guys, you can see there's a button here on the left hand side and the button here on the right hand side that will allow you to take the slideshow to the next picture or the previous picture. The best part is, guys, both the buttons show up only when the mouse pointer is over the stage. The moment I go off the stage, the two buttons actually disappear. When I come on the stage, they appear once again, but they appear at 70% transparency, guys, not at a full 100% opacity, okay, but at 70% transparency. So I've set the alpha in such a way that it's 70% transparent unless and until somebody actually hovers over any of those buttons. The moment he or she does that, only that button, maybe on the right hand side or the left hand side, actually gains full opacity, loses its transparency completely. But that happens when somebody hovers over that button. Okay, the moment you hover off or you come out of off the button, the button again becomes only 70% transparent. Okay, so as you can see, mouse over and mouse out will increase or decrease the transparency, right? And as you can see out here, the moment I take the mouse off the stage, in Flash we call it a stage, the main area where the pictures show up, the buttons actually disappear. Not only that, guys, these buttons are responsible for taking the slideshow onto the next picture or the previous picture, and it can actually loop like a cycle. Let me prove my point, guys. In our example, I've used 3 pictures. So this is the first picture, this is the second picture, this is the third picture, and if I click the next button, we don't have a 4th picture. So what it does is it actually loops back to the very first picture. That's very cool. Similarly, you see, the previous button also helps me to cycle through the 3 pictures. So when it if you are on the very first picture and if you press this left button, it will take you to the 3rd picture, the 2nd, the 1st and the 3rd picture once again. So it can actually cycle through, guys. Alright, so that's very cool. These buttons are actually quite magical. You see, here we see the buttons at 70% transparency. Here they are at the left button is at full 100% opacity, and if I go off the stage, they completely disappear. So that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool, nice. So what I'll do is, guys, I'll destroy a part of this project. Okay, if you have a look out here, we have the ActionScript 3 layer, we have the buttons layer, and we have the pictures layer. So I'm going to destroy the button in the pictures layer. The action script actually is a bit lengthy. Let me show you the actions panel as well. So it's pretty lengthy. You see, to have that button mania possible, I had to write quite a number of lines. Okay, and which means that I'm going to retain the actions layer, but I'm going to remove the buttons layer and the pictures layer. By the way, guys, if you think the action script is too lengthy, you can go to my website, which is http://qualitylessons.net, and download this project out there. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to select the buttons layer, I'm going to dump it, I'm going to also dump the pictures layer. Okay, also, guys, here in the library I'm going to dump everything. I'm going to select everything, I'm going to right click, and I'm going to say delete. Okay, which means that the library is completely empty. So, guys, the only thing that is left in this project is the actions layer, and the first frame of the actions layer actually contains the action script, and that's all that we have in this project. So I can actually show you how this was done from scratch. Okay, Cool. Next guys, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna click out here to insert a new layer. Let me call this layer pictures. Beg your pardon, pictures. Right. And which means that I need to import the 3 pictures. In fact, let me also make sure that the actions layer is at the top of the pictures layer, which is the right way of working. The actions layer is always at the top. Okay, so making sure that the first frame of the pictures layer is selected, I'm going to import the pictures. I'm going to say file, import to the stage. Okay, this is the folder guys where I've kept all my pictures. So I'm going to select picture number 1. We have picture number 2 and picture number 3 as well. I'm going to select only picture number 1. Okay, the pictures are 800 by 600 pixels guys, matching the size of the stage. I'm going to say open. The moment I do that, Adobe Flash CS6 Professional alerts me that the file appears to be a sequence, a part of a sequence of images, the other 2 being pic 2 and pic 3. It understands that very intelligently, and it's asking me, do you want to import all of the pictures in the sequence? Since it's a sequence, it's asking me whether I want to bring in all the 3 pictures onto the stage, which indeed I wish to do. So I'm going to say yes. The moment I do that guys, you can actually notice that the 3 pictures have been placed on 3 separate frames out here on the pictures layer, which is really cool. Okay, and since the size of the pictures matches the size of the stage, 800 in width and 600 in height, it actually fits perfectly. So that's very cool. Okay, next guys, I would need one more layer for the button. So let me click on this new layer button. Okay, let me rename this layer from layer 4. Let me call it buttons, buttons. Okay, and let me make sure that I click on the first frame of the buttons layer. Let me go to Windows. Let me say common libraries and then buttons. I'm not going to construct the buttons guys, instead I'm going to use a ready-made button. Okay, so this is the buttons library. I'm going to go down to classic buttons. Okay, there we are. Let me open up the classic buttons folder. Okay, right, and once I do that guys, I have a subcategory called circle buttons. Let me open that up. Okay, under the circle buttons, let me first expand this area so I can clearly see everything. There's a button called circle with arrow. Okay, this is the button that I'm interested in. So you can see out here the preview of the button. So let me pull it out and let me drag it onto the stage. Okay, my work is actually done. This is the button guys. Okay, this is the button. If I go to the properties panel, let me expand this area. Oh, that's too much. You can actually see that the size of the button, the width is 20, the height is 20. I'm going to change the size to, let's say, a 50. Right, and then guys, what I'm going to do is I'm going to say Control C and a Control V to copy the button. So that's the second instance of the button, but I need to rotate it, and I'll be keeping it on the left hand side of the picture. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go out here where we have the free transform tool. Let me click on that. I'll get certain boxes all around. Let me go to the corner out here. Okay, let me press the control key and let me rotate the button. I beg your pardon, let's say Control Z. Actually it disturbed the alignment of the picture. Okay, so yeah, let me give it a try again. Yeah, so this is how I've actually rotated the button, a complete 180 degrees. Cool. So this is one button that I'll be keeping on the left hand side, and this is the other button that I'll be keeping on the right hand side. Let me click on the button on the left hand side. Let me give it an instance name of BTN1. Okay, and let me click on the other button. Let me give it an instance name of BTN2. Okay, and then guys, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go use the Aligns panel out here. Let me just yep. So this is the Aligns panel that is open out here. So what I can do is I can make sure that after selecting the button on the right hand side, in fact guys, let me go to the workspace essential, let me reset it. Okay, cool. Now this is how things will appear on your system. So you open up the Aligns panel and then you make sure that you click on this button, which will align the button vertically centrally. Indeed, it has done that. What I'll do is I'll click on the other button on the left hand side. I'll open up the Aligns panel and then again I'll be aligning it vertically centrally. Okay, now both the buttons have been aligned vertically centrally. Now what I'll be doing is I'll be pressing the shift key and then I'll be dragging this button, okay, and keeping it somewhere out here. Similarly, I'll be pressing the shift key and dragging this button and keeping it somewhere out here. Okay, close to the edges. That's pretty cool. All right, so guys, what I've done is I've reconstructed the pictures layer and I've also reconstructed the buttons layer, and the instance names that I've given to the button on the left hand side is btn1, the button on the right hand side is btn2. okay, so basically what I've done is whatever I had destroyed I have reconstructed. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit Control Enter to test the project once again. Okay, as you can see up front none of the buttons show up, and let me hover over the stage. The moment I go over the stage, you can see that the buttons actually appear at 70% transparency. The moment I hover over any of these buttons, okay, they gain full opacity, they lose their transparency. Okay, and only the button that is actually hovered over shows up in complete opacity, and the moment I go off the stage or the picture, the buttons completely disappear. And let me press these buttons to see if the slideshow is actually working perfectly, which it is indeed. It's working in complete perfection. That's pretty cool, that's pretty nice. All right, and it's looping through, so the first picture goes to the second goes to the third, and then it goes back to the very first picture. So wonderful guys. Now the only thing that is left for me to do is to explain the action script. And guys, just in case you do not want to get into the detail of understanding the action script, which is a little longer, I would agree to that. You can actually download it from my website, which is http://qualitylessons.net. right? Okay, so let's but for guys who actually have the teeth to dig in difficulties and come up trumps, let me try and explain the action script for you. Okay, now guys, if you are an action scripter, you must understand that it actually involves a lot of logic. Okay, cool. So guys, have a look out here. See, this is the import directive. This will get this line will get auto generated when you actually write the code, so don't worry about line number 1. Okay. The code actually starts from line number 2. I've declared a variable counter, all right, of the type number. I've not given it a value. There's a reason why I've actually declared the variable counter. Okay. The next thing that I've done is, guys, I've used the stop inbuilt function. Basically, since there are 3 pictures and 3 frames, the playhead will run from the first to the second to the third frame in a frenzy. Okay. To stop that from happening, I have to use the stop function. See, let me show you. If the stop function was not there, let me comment it out just for the moment. Let me hit Control Enter, and you can see that the pictures are actually in a frenzy now. So we need the stop function. Okay, cool. Right. So it will make sure that the playhead stops on the very first picture, does not go to the second picture. Then what I've done is, up front, I'm making sure that button 1 dot visible, using the visible property, guys, is equal to button 2 dot visible and is equal to false. So basically I'm turning the visibility of both the buttons up front. Okay. Not only that, I'm also making sure that up front the alpha for both the buttons is dropped from a 1, which is complete opacity, to 0.7, which is 70% transparency. Cool, right? So alpha is the property which is used to reduce the transparency. So first I'm making the buttons invisible, and then I'm dropping the alpha as well. Okay, now in line number 11 you can see I have declared I have actually written that if the counter is equal to 1. So basically check if the counter is equal to 1. Here you can see I've actually declared a variable called counter, but I have not given it any value. Okay, since I have not given it any value, this will get skipped. So we'll come back to that. We'll come back to line number 11 when the condition counter is equal to 1. Basically when you write is equal to twice, you're actually checking if it is equal to 1. Right now, since it's not equal to 1, since I've not given the variable counter any value, it will skip this step completely. So we'll skip lines 11 to 14 completely. Okay, next guys, what I've done is I've added an event listener to the stage. Okay, it's a mouse event, and I'm checking for the mouse move. So I'm checking if the mouse is actually moving on the stage. See, the mouse will move on the stage only if the mouse is there on the stage. Okay, so in other words, I'm checking if the mouse is actually there on the stage, and if it is, I would want a function called show arrow to be executed. And let's see what exactly is there inside the function show arrow. What I'm doing is I'm actually turning the visibility of the buttons, button 1, button 2, back on. Okay, if you remember out here in line number 5, I'd actually turned the visibility off, and here I'm actually turning the visibility back on. That's very cool. Okay, in line number 27 guys, I'm checking I've added another event listener to the stage, and I'm actually checking for mouse leave. Okay, so the event is mouse leave. Just in case, just in the event the mouse leaves the stage, I would want a function called hide arrow to be executed. And let's see what exactly is there in the function hide arrow. In the function hide arrow guys, I'm setting the visibility back off. So here I'm setting the visibility on, here I'm setting it off, and up front, if you remember, I had set the visibility off. So depending on the situation we are in, I'm you know, switching between the visibilities on and off. Okay, so this is visibility off once again. Sorry. Okay, let's see what happens in line number 38 and 39. I've added an event listener to both the buttons btn1 and btn2. Okay, of the type mouse over. Okay, and the moment somebody goes over btn1 or btn2, if somebody mouses over the buttons, either of the buttons btn1 or btn2, I want a function called reset alpha to be executed. Okay, so up front I had actually dropped the alpha to a 0.7 or 70% transparency. So let's see what exactly is happening with the function reset alpha. Okay, it just has one single line. It says event.currentTarget.alpha is equal to 1. So basically what I'm doing out here is I'm resetting the alpha back to 100% opacity from a 70% opacity transparency. If you remember, I'd actually dropped the alpha way back out here in line number 7 and 8. Okay, so basically what I'm doing is I want that if somebody mouses over either of the two buttons, button 1 or button 2, I would want the alpha of the current target. The current target is either btn1 or btn2, as the case may be. I would want the alpha to be reset back to 1 from 70% to 100%, which is cool. Alright, let's see what's happening out here in line number 48 and 49. Now guys, since you know the script is quite big, that is the reason why I didn't destroy the actionscript layer. I was too lazy to write it again. It's okay to explain verbally, but to write it manually is actually a task. Anyways, so coming back to lines 48-49, what I've done is I've added yet another event listener to the buttons, both the buttons btn1, btn2. This time it's of the type mouse out, and I would want that if somebody mouses out or away from the buttons, if somebody takes the mouse pointer off the buttons, I would want a function called drop alpha to be executed. And in the function drop alpha, it just has one single line. So event.currentTarget.alpha is equal to 70% once again, 0.7 that is. So the alpha of the current target could be either btn1 or btn2, and the event is a mouse event. So the alpha of the current target, which is btn1, or btn2 of the event, which is mouse event. So whenever somebody mouses out of any of the two buttons, take the transparency back to a 70%. Alright, let's see what happens in line number 58 and 59. I've added two more event listeners to these buttons. It's a mouse event, guys, specifically of the type click, and I would want two functions called left frame and right frame to be executed depending on which button was clicked. So if it was the button 1 which was clicked, I would want a function called left frame, and if it was the button 2 which was clicked, I would want a function called right frame to be executed. Let's exactly see what is happening out here in both these functions, the left frame and right frame. Okay, basically the left frame will make sure that the playhead goes to the left frame, and the right frame will make sure that the button, the playhead goes to the right frame, or the frame on the right. Okay, so let's first examine the function left frame. Okay, the first thing that I'm doing is, whether I'm executing the function left frame or the right frame, I'm setting the counter equal to 1. That will come in very handy, as we'll soon see. That's the first thing that is happening. The counter didn't have a value earlier. If you remember, I'd actually declared the counter out here and told Flash that it's actually a number, but I had not given it a value, which I'm giving it now. So no matter which function is getting executed, left frame or right frame, I'm setting the counter equal to 1, and we'll soon see why exactly have I done that. Not only that, I'm also checking if it is the function called left frame that is getting executed. I'm checking if the current frame is equal to 1. So basically, if the playhead is on the very first picture, and if somebody presses the button on the left hand side, it'll take you to the third picture. Go to and stop 3. It'll take you to the third picture, which is the last picture. Else, it'll take you to the previous frame. Okay. So if you're on the very first frame, it'll take you to the third frame, but if you're on the third frame, it'll take you to the second frame. If you're on the second frame, it'll take you to the first frame, and if you're on the first frame, it'll take you to the third frame. That is the way it actually cycles through. Let's examine the function called right frame. It's exactly the opposite. So I'm setting the counter equal to 1 here as well, which is fine, and as I said, we'll soon see why have I set the counter equal to 1. So if the current frame is actually 3, it'll make sure that it'll take you to the very first frame. Otherwise, else it'll take you to the next frame. That is responsible for the cycling, going from the first to the second to the third, back to the first to the second to the third, or third to the second to the first, third to the second to the first. So these two functions, left frame and right frame, are responsible for pedaling through or cycling through or shuffling through the frames in a cycle. It does never stop. Okay, now in the end, guys, let's talk about why was this counter made equal to 1. Okay, let's go back out here. See what happens the moment the playhead goes back to the very first frame. The moment the playhead goes back to the very first frame, let's say it went from the first picture to the second to the third, the moment it goes back to the very first picture, again the visibility becomes false. You see, because of line number 5. In line number 5, it's clearly written that the visibility for both the buttons should be made false. Okay, I don't want that. I don't want the visibility to be lost as soon as we go back to the very first frame. Okay, so how do I counter that? That's been countered, or that's been counteracted in line number 11. So we check if the counter is equal to 1. So if counter is equal to 1, I would want the BTN1 and BTN2 visibility to be set back. Okay, so basically what happens out here will be countered out here. That will nullify or neutralize the effect of the buttons going visible. Okay, so that's pretty cool. So this is the action script, guys. I know it's pretty lengthy. So what you can do is you can visit this website, http://qualitylessons.net/downloads, and get the FLA file. So simple. So guys, I hope you like this tutorial. You learned a lot from this tutorial, and I hope you will download this file and use it. So guys, I also hope to see you very soon with yet another Flash or ActionScript 3 tutorial, or it could be Dreamweaver CS6. You have a good day, guys. Bye bye. Peace.